At a family gathering, the sling bra I had worn for 10 years was cut by my son in public. Everyone was stunned, but he looked up with a proud face and said, "You're a bad woman. Don't even think about stealing the limelight in our family." I silently covered myself with my clothes. I looked at my indifferent husband. My heart was cold, but my son was still laughing. "As long as you live here, I won't let you be comfortable." I was completely disappointed. I turned around and left. After I had actually left, the father and son, who hated me, begged me to go back. "Olivia, what are you doing packing?" Ryan stared at the 2 large suitcases on the floor as soon as he entered the room. "I just finished folding the last few clothes and putting them in." I looked up and responded to him. "Aren't you asking a question you already know the answer to?" Ryan was silent for a while, frowning and rubbing his temples. "Liam didn't mean it. Why are you like this? He's just a child." Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. With a mocking tone, I said, "A 10-year-old child. He can now distinguish right from wrong. This is not ignorance. It's pure evil. You raised this child single-handedly. Don't you feel the least bit remorseful?" Ryan actually still wants to impress me with family affection. It's really infuriating. He forgot that there is basically no family affection between Liam and me. I coldly replied, "I can't bear it. I don't want him to spit in the porridge I eat. I don't want him to cut the straps of my dress today." Ryan saw that I had no intention of changing my mind. He was silent for a long time. Then he turned and left. I didn't think I would see him again today, but before long, he returned with Liam. When the 10-year-old chubby boy was brought in, he still looked angry. "What do you want, you bad woman? You think if you tell my dad, I'll admit defeat, seeing how he can't tell right from wrong. I feel like the last 10 years of education have been wasted. He'll listen to anyone, but come to think of it, he is only 10. That's normal." "Liam, you can't do that. Apologize to your mother right now." When Ryan scolded him, Liam looked displeased. He stared at me for a long time. In the end, he grunted, "She's not my mother, she's just a vixen, a bad woman." "Liam." Ryan's tone became a little stern. Liam looked up at him, his mouth curled up. He still refused to accept it. "She's a fake mother. I won't apologize to this fake mother. I've already understood. She came to our family just to take my mother's place." His face was full of anger. He said to me, glaring, "I will never apologize to someone like you. Never, never. You can't do anything to me anyway." He was completely spoiled and rebellious. Seeing this situation, Ryan also felt somewhat helpless. After a while, he said to me, "Olivia, he is still young. He must know in his heart that he is wrong. This incident has little impact. Why don't we just let it go?" Ryan's attitude was again ambiguous. This was the same attitude he had adopted every time they had a conflict in the past 10 years. I secretly felt relieved. Luckily, I don't love him. If I really love him, I'll just be left with anger and useless tears. The suitcase slammed shut. I stood up. I looked at him and sneered. "Forget it, Ryan, your nominal wife has been bullied like this, and you just let it go." Ryan saw how I was. His face also sank. He said, "If you leave now, you're just going back on your word." I pulled out the suitcase handle and saw his eyes suddenly become strange. "Ryan, I know you never truly loved Emily. You only loved her as a celebrity with a top position, her beauty, and the glory she brought you. But now you don't even want to pretend." Ryan didn't expect me to suddenly mention Emily. His face became even gloomier. "What do you mean by that? Why did you suddenly mention her?" I walked out with the suitcase, in a cold tone of voice, "Because the 10-year promise has expired. Today is her memorial day, so today is the perfect day. Can you stop messing around?" Ryan's face rarely showed a trace of guilt or remorse, but I felt that he was being too fake. I couldn't help but sneer. "We were originally just nominal husband and wife. Your wife has always been Emily. Isn't that right? Ryan's real wife is my best friend Emily. At that time, she was the most popular actress in the entertainment industry. She chose to marry him at the most beautiful age. They even had a child. Unfortunately, she died in a car accident not long after. Before she died, she looked at the swaddled Liam and begged me, Olivia, who didn't understand the intricacies of the Smith family, to give Liam to them. I didn't have a good feeling about it. I implored you, please help me look after him for 10 years. I shook her hand tightly. I nodded and agreed. I felt sad in my heart at that time. I felt that Emily was kind-hearted and simple-minded. The child she gave birth to shouldn't be too bad. I always regarded Liam as the only memory Emily left me. Later, in order to be able to take care of him with a legitimate reason, Ryan and I got married. However, in doing so, I have been blamed for 10 years. Everyone said that I took advantage of the situation. Everyone thought that I took advantage of my best friend's death. The internet was full of abuse. In reality, I was also harassed several times by Emily's fans. I put up with all of this, but Ryan's behavior made my online abuse even worse. Over the past 10 years, he has never lacked for lovers. He even rarely brings me to important events. Now the wind of online opinion has changed again. So what if I went to great lengths to become Mrs. Smith? Ryan still doesn't love me, but I don't care about his love. During this time, Liam has been provoked by those who want to climb the social ladder. He is becoming more and more dissatisfied with me. I discovered Ryan's indifference too late. It's too late. He has already made up his mind. Nothing can change it. He said to Olivia, "This is my fault. I apologize to you on Liam's behalf. Is that all right? He is only 10 years old. I hope you can accompany him to adulthood." Ryan grabbed my wrist tightly. His tone was a little helpless and weak. I looked at him, this weak man who was good for nothing except his looks. I really didn't understand why Emily had fallen for him in the first place, but I didn't want to. "You asked me to stay. It's because you're busy at work. Do you want a reliable nanny and housekeeper? You know I will always be good to Liam because of Emily. But you've already forgotten." Watching Ryan's furrowed brow, I continued. "Emily asked me to stay for 10 years. I'm willing to give 10 years of my life for her. Ryan, what makes you think I should stay? Forgive me for being blunt. You don't have that much clout. There's no need to put it so bluntly. Don't you have the slightest feeling for me? What about this family? You've lived here for 10 years. What do you think of it?" Ryan gripped my hand tightly. I sneered. "I don't have the slightest sense of belonging to the Smith family. I'm doing all this for Emily. I've been taking care of you for 10 years. How many decades does a person get?" Ryan tried to say something, but Liam suddenly rushed over. He pulled his hand away from mine with all his strength. He shouted, "Just go. I don't like you at all. You're a fake mother. I don't care. Just go away." At that moment, it was impossible not to feel sad and disappointed. I had hoped to see Emily again through Liam's eyes, but now it seemed that under the influence of the Smith family genes. He is nothing but an ungrateful guy. I don't bother saying any more. I pick up my suitcase and leave. As I walk past, the cleaning ladies all look at me with strange expressions. I ignore them. As I walk through the living room of the villa, I see Grandma sitting on the sofa. She slowly puts down her teacup and walks over, with a look of reproach on her face. "Where are you going?" Grandma has always been serious. If there's someone in this family I'm most afraid of, it's definitely her. She's different from Ryan. In terms of experience and background, I can't compare. If I randomly contradict her, it will only make things worse. Thinking about this, I pursed my lips. A little scared, I suppressed the trembling in my voice. "Aunt, I'm leaving." Grandma looked at my suitcase. She understood that my mind was made up. Her face didn't show much reaction. She spoke softly. "Olivia, you've been with the Smith family for 10 years now. The Smith family has a lot on its plate right now. We need you to help keep things stable at home. If you can just hang in there for a few more years, the Smith family will remember your kindness." Her tone was calm. After she finished speaking, there was silence. She gave me time to think. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. The two cleaning ladies' low voices, which I had heard when I passed by earlier, sounded particularly harsh. Why was the old lady being so kind to her? Olivia has already been blessed by being allowed to stay for 10 years. And now she won't let her go. "Shush, don't let the lady hear. They speak to me without any respect, and they think they can take care of children. Why should I be Mrs. Smith? They are just cleaners. To be honest, they are just jealous of my good fortune." These words slowly die down in the quiet room. Only then do the two women notice the unusual atmosphere. They look at Grandma with a little awe. Grandma, dressed in a long black skirt, says calmly, "You can go and collect your wages from the housekeeper later. You don't need to come back tomorrow." The cleaning ladies look at Grandma in astonishment. One of them turns pale. The other one seems to have worked here for many years. She quickly comes over and bows to apologize. "I'm sorry, old lady. I'm sorry, madam. I can't help it. I'll apologize. Please don't fire me," she says, crying. "I won't dare to do it again." I didn't say a word. Grandma was annoyed by her crying. She frowned. Her tone became even more severe. "Didn't you hear me? I said you don't need to come tomorrow. Any more questions? The Smith family doesn't need a maid who tells tales." The cleaning lady listened to her. She immediately stopped crying. She didn't dare to say another word. I watched her being so ruthless. My heart felt cold. Just because she said a few words behind my back, she was able to fire me. Then I must have been worthless in her eyes for the past 10 years. What she said about remembering me fondly. It's all a lie. This is all nonsense. I've been with her for 10 years. I've long since known what kind of person she is. Now she's keeping me on, but only because I'm the most valuable. Before, I kept the Smith family home in perfect order, and I raised her grandchildren to be healthy and strong. She knows how much it would cost to hire a housekeeper with my qualifications. So as long as I can still bring her benefits, she will unceremoniously keep me. It's completely a businessman's way of thinking. Such a mother. How could she give birth to someone like Ryan? Grandma, I don't want her to stay. She's not a good mother. Liam rushed down from upstairs. Holding her legs tightly, he kept pleading, get her out. Liam doesn't want to see her. Grandma, I'm begging you. I look at Liam's hostile expression. Although I'm a little afraid of Grandma, I say in a firm tone, I'm sorry, Aunt, I have to go. I stayed because I made a 10-year promise to my friend. Please don't stop me. Grandma listens. Her face turns even darker. Olivia, you have to think about this. Not every family can let you live like this. I looked her in the eye, took a deep breath. Yes, Aunt, I've thought it through. Grandma didn't say anything else. She moved aside. Liam behind her kept making faces at me, not at all reluctant. I had just stepped out of the villa. My phone received a transfer from Ryan. He sent a message. With an attached voice message, the voice said, Olivia, I'll give you some time to think it over. Feel free to contact me when you've made up your mind. I stared at the numbers and the zeros behind them. There was a long silence. Then I blocked him. I left everything related to the Smith family at the villa. I only took the clothes I bought over the years. As for the jewelry, rings, credit cards, etc., they were all Mrs. Smith's things. Now I just want to live for myself. I took the money Ryan gave me. This is the agreed remuneration. It is the fee for my hard work over the past 10 years. After receiving the money, I immediately bought a plane ticket to go home. Standing at the door with my suitcase, I had mixed feelings. Over the past 10 years, I had very little time with my family. I was always tied up with the various trivial matters of the Smith family. I could not get away. I took a deep breath. I can finally get away from the boring fame and fortune and parties of the Smith family. Next, I plan to just be myself. Olivia, you're back. My father calls out happily. He comes over to help me with my suitcase. My mother also rushes forward to hug me. Tears glisten in her eyes. It's good to have you back, my dear daughter. They had already received the news. They had been waiting for me at the door, especially after hearing that I had decided to leave the Smith family. They were overjoyed. During these 10 years, whenever I was wronged, my family felt great pain. They hoped I would leave sooner, but in the end, they respected my choice and supported me in fulfilling my promise. I am very grateful for my parents' support over the years. On the way home, my mother kept complaining. She said I was originally quite well off, but these past 10 years have been wasted waiting to become Mrs. Smith. People only know me as a pretty face. They don't know that I'm a graduate student at a prestigious university in the capital. Mom, don't worry. I've learned a lot at the Smith family over the years. It hasn't been a waste. I gently took my mother's hand to comfort her, my dear. Don't blame her when she comes back, my dear. Even if you never work again, Mom and Dad can support you. My father embraced me in his arms and asked me what I wanted to eat that night. In the following days, I enjoyed the most carefree days in 10 years. There was no more backstabbing in the world of fame and fortune. I didn't have to maintain the image of a dignified Mrs. Smith, and I didn't have to attend all those events. I picked up my old hobbies again. I started to pay attention to my own heart and feelings. I even took the time to go to the cemetery. On Emily's tombstone, she still looked young and beautiful. I couldn't help but touch my own face. She was still so young, but I felt 10 years older. I told her I had decided to leave the Smith family. Then I lit a joss stick. I offered flowers. I was ready to go. The flowers by the tombstone swayed gently. It was as if she was nodding. Later, I sent in a few more CVs. I received replies to all of them. In my spare time, my mother would also ask tentatively about the Smith family. I answered frankly. I thought, you like Ryan, so you are willing to do so much for him. I haven't dared to ask you these past few days. In the face of my mother's doubts, I couldn't help but laugh. I like him. Am I crazy? How could it be? Mom, I've always been there for Emily. I actually don't have any feelings for Ryan, and there hasn't been any real married life over the years. If there is affection, it's at best friends and partners raising children together. A few days later, a strange number called. I hung up as soon as I saw the location. Why didn't you answer? My mother asked me in a low voice. I casually answered. Harassment call, ignore it. I said this with my mouth, but I was a little worried in my heart. A strange phone call from the sea. It's hard not to make me suspicious of the Smith family. What I feared came true. Sure enough, the door to the house was knocked on at dinner. I feel like I know who it is. Is it Olivia? My mother had long noticed that something was wrong with me. Now she whispered to me, under the gaze of my parents. I sighed and stood up. I knew I couldn't avoid it. It was Ryan and Liam standing outside the door. It was raining. Both of them were wet. They had obviously rushed over. Olivia. Ryan's eyes lit up when he saw it was me. Liam looked a little defiant, but his expression was much more restrained than the other day. I didn't say anything. Ryan broke the silence. He pointed inside. Can we come in? I need to talk to you about something. Let's talk here. It's not convenient, I spoke in a cold tone. I was very unhappy about them disturbing my peaceful life. It's only been a few days, and they came looking for me. Ryan's face instantly showed an embarrassed expression. Next to him, Liam pouted. He was about to cry, oops. It happened to be dinner time. Ryan, bring the children in first. It was my mother who spoke first, breaking the awkward atmosphere. A little awkwardly, she invited them in to eat. She couldn't bear to see the children go hungry from the moment they entered the house. I didn't say a word. The meal was quite awkward. My father is the backbone of the family. He habitually speaks first. Ryan, why have you suddenly come to visit us? Ryan politely responded by helping Liam with his food. I just happened to be in the area on business. I stopped by to see Olivia. Ah, it's nice of you to drop by. My mother answered a little sheepishly. At that moment, Liam pointed with his chopsticks at the dish Ryan had just served him. He said unhappily, Dad, I don't like the chicken wings. They're terrible. He was about to say more, but Ryan's look scared him into silence. Ryan and I have a special relationship, but he has rarely seen my parents over the years. This time he took the initiative to come for dinner. It was a first. The meal ended in a strange atmosphere. My parents took the opportunity to wash the dishes, leaving the living room to me. What do you want? Now I have been patiently reminded. I am so annoyed by the father and son. Ryan stared at me, whispering, Olivia, I know it may not be appropriate to talk about this now, but I still hope you can come back. The Smith family and Liam can't live without you. Seeing my face getting uglier and uglier, Ryan quickly patted Liam on the back. Liam reluctantly lowered his head. He reluctantly apologized. Mom, I'm sorry I shouldn't have cut your skirt that day. I know I was wrong. I won't do it again. Are you sure you've got it wrong? I remained cold, facing the two of them. I shrugged lightly. Who is his mother? According to Emily's side of the family, he should call me aunt. Liam froze for a moment, and his face flushed. He felt that my answer had made him lose face. Ryan's expression also turned ugly. Olivia, it's such a trivial matter. Why can't you let it go? You just have to keep harping on it. I watched him make a mess in my house. I couldn't help but scold him loudly. Ryan, you're still holding a grudge even after I'm dead. You don't think I care about your family in particular, do you? I've had a really exhausting decade, not to mention raising an ungrateful brat for you. Ryan stared at me for a long time. He barely managed to hold back his anger. He rubbed his forehead. He said, I'm sorry. It's the Smith family and I who have been bad to you. You've suffered a lot over the past 10 years. I shouldn't have indulged my son. I've spoiled him like this, and I didn't take your hard work seriously. Is that okay? If you have any grievances, I can apologize for them. I shook my head gently. I feel very tired. No, Ryan, you never understood why I had to go. Ryan frowned. He looked at me confused. He thought it was all about injustice. The online abuse I suffered because of his betrayal, and the children's lack of understanding. All of this became the last straw that broke my back. I took a deep breath and started to accuse him because I don't want to go back at all. Your family may be rich, but the atmosphere is dark and depressing. There is nothing to recommend it. And your cold-hearted mother who only cares about profit, those scheming relatives and business partners, I've had enough. After that, Ryan's face turned dark and ugly. So that's how you've always seen my family. Yes, why should I continue to waste my youth in a place like yours? I looked him straight in the eye without flinching. Now I've finally spoken my mind. My whole body feels relieved. This is my family. What can he do to me? The air suddenly became tense. Everyone was silent. I pointed to the door. I said directly, please leave. Don't disturb my life anymore, Olivia. My family has given you such a rich life and a top social circle. You actually look at my family like this. Has the Smith family not given you any benefits? And now you turn around and accuse me. What is the point? Ryan stood up abruptly from the sofa. His eyes were wide open. His face was full of anger. It was obvious. My words had hurt his pride. I stared at his face. I couldn't help but laugh. Benefits, I realized after joining the social circle. Each of you is so hypocritical. What makes you say your family has been good to me? Ryan took a deep breath. He didn't say anything for a long time. I continued to say angrily, "Isn't that the case?" It was almost the same time last year. There was a business gathering. Ryan, you were in the middle of a relationship void, so you had no choice but to bring me along. Ryan didn't expect me to mention this. He was at a loss for words. I continued, "That day I held your arm." The other ladies and gentlemen laughed. They said, "This is another beauty you've hidden in your golden house. And you, from beginning to end, didn't say a word for me." Isn't this also? Ryan wanted to explain, but stuttered for a long time. I had drunk a lot that day. I sneered. "Fine, I'll pretend you were drunk. I got my revenge that day." "How did your mother react when you got home?" "She lectured me until midnight. She said my behavior had shamed the family." "Where were you at that time?" Ryan rubbed his face hard. He looked full of distress. This time he didn't say he had drunk a lot. He simply admitted his fault. It was indeed my fault. At that time, for the sake of the family's reputation, I failed to stand up for you. But then my mother also made that family pay a price. You don't need to keep holding a grudge until now. My parents also rushed over when they heard a noise. After listening to me complain about so many grievances, they also looked at the father and son with dissatisfied eyes. Seeing my parents come, it felt as if the grievances in my heart had suddenly found an outlet. I couldn't help but close my eyes. My voice choked up. "Ryan, I only recognize that point in time. I haven't received a single penny of the price you mentioned." My mother came over with concern and took my hand. I gently shook it, trying hard to hold back the tears. "Over the years, I never expected you to face life with me like an ordinary couple. But even for Emily's sake, you should have some sense. Even colleagues don't behave like you. You and your family make me feel particularly disgusted." "Okay, Olivia, don't be angry." My mother pats me gently on the back. My father is also furious. He stands behind me and backs me up. "Ryan, just stop talking." I take a deep breath. "Walk to the door. Open it a little wider. Say it briefly. You leave immediately. Don't make me say something harsh. Don't disturb me again. Just go." "I don't want your fake mother." Liam has been listening for a while. He is young and hot-tempered. He jumps off the sofa and heads for the door. When he gets there, he turns around and shouts, "Dad, go. We're not welcome here." Ryan stands still. He doesn't move. He stares at me. My father sees that things are getting a bit chaotic. He whispers to Ryan, "Ryan, take the kids out first. You can see for yourself." Olivia doesn't want to talk about it today. As soon as my father spoke, Ryan let out a long sigh. He turned and walked away. After the door slammed shut, my parents were puzzled by his actions. With the Smith family's status, it shouldn't be hard to find another Mrs. Smith. Why bother with you again? It can't be true that he's fallen for you. My mother sat on the sofa, put her arms around me, who was feeling down, and patted my back. I sniffed and responded to her words. If that was really the case, Ryan would really make me feel sick. My father was also helplessly agreeing with me. "I just hope he won't disturb our lives anymore in the future." I thought they had all gone that day. Unexpectedly, the next day when I went downstairs to buy breakfast, I saw Ryan and Liam again. Ryan was awkwardly eating a normal breakfast that he would never normally touch. "Dad, I can't peel it." Liam was so aggrieved that he couldn't even peel an egg. I deftly bought breakfast for 3. Ryan greeted me with a little embarrassment. "You're also here for breakfast." I took the soy milk and fried dough sticks. There was no smile on my face. "Why haven't you left yet?" Ryan heard this. A rare smile appeared on his face. He touched his nose in response. "Because I'm living right across the street from you now." I said with a frown, "Don't talk nonsense. My neighbor is clearly Aunt Zhang." Ryan slammed a contract on the table. I leaned over to take a look. He spent twice the market price to buy the house. And he looked smug. I really can't stand Ryan's approach. "What's the point of what you're doing? You know very well that I won't go back. And I won't take care of Liam anymore." Ryan disagreed with this. He felt that money could get you anything. "I'm sure I can win you back, make you want to go with him." I suddenly feel so powerless. Facing this young master of the Smith family. "What, you're not really falling for me, are you?" Ryan listened. His eyes widened slightly. His face clearly had more of a gentle expression. After a long time, he said, "Can I?" My expression slowly turned cold. I rested my hand on the table, leaning forward slightly. I said in a clear tone, "You're the one who really makes me sick." Ryan looked up at me. His face suddenly changed. He has always been like this. Since childhood, he has always felt that money can buy everything, including other people's feelings for him. That day, after I said that, I left. I didn't care at all about Ryan's ugly expression. The next half month or so, he just moved in next door. It seems that what he said that day, that he liked me, wasn't just a joke. Ryan pursued me in a way that he thought was romantic. He sent flowers and luxury goods. He even confessed to me by lighting candles downstairs. These actions made me feel very disgusted. I rejected and threw away all the gifts. "Olivia, I like you. In the past, I didn't see my own heart clearly. Please, let me try again." He took a megaphone and shouted downstairs. Many neighbors had gathered around. I really didn't want to become the talk of the neighborhood, so I asked my mother for a basin of water. Then I poured the water directly when I ran downstairs. Ryan was soaked to the skin. He looked at me with a miserable face. I was also going to lay things out. I asked him directly, "Ryan, what on earth are you doing? Why do you think I would fall in love with my best friend's husband? Are you crazy? We have been nothing more than casual friends and colleagues over the years. Our relationship has been mediocre." Ryan stared at me for a long time. Finally, he asked, "How is the baby? Have you never felt in the past 10 years that we are a family?" I took a few steps back. My face was expressionless. Never once, after that day, Ryan seemed to have caught a cold from the shower. He didn't bother me for a few days. Even when he did, I kept ignoring his attentions. Today, my mother suddenly told me some good news. "Olivia, I met someone while grocery shopping." Guess who? I was a little puzzled. She took my hand and said excitedly, "Christopher, do you remember him? He quit his job abroad. He's back home to develop his career." Really, I happily agreed. It had been a long time indeed. Christopher and I grew up together. We were practically childhood sweethearts, my mother told me. He had even asked about my situation. He wanted to have dinner with me. I was happy to do so. "Olivia, long time no see. It's been a few years. He's become even more handsome and gentle." When he was waiting for me downstairs, my heart suddenly started racing. It felt like it missed a beat. We were old friends reunited. We talked and laughed. The atmosphere was electric. It was as if all those years apart hadn't made us standoffish at all. We walked out of the restaurant, joking and laughing. Suddenly, I saw Ryan standing outside the door waiting for me. He was staring at Christopher. His eyes were full of hostility. "Olivia, who is he? What does he have to do with you?" Christopher asked suspiciously. I took the initiative to go up to him and pull him behind me. Ryan froze for a moment. He looked a little embarrassed. "Why, what's wrong with me? For more than half a month, I've been showing you my good side. But not only have you not forgiven me, you've also treated me like this. You can get along with someone else so quickly. You're not rejecting me because of him, are you? What you're doing is completely unfair to me." The more he said, the more my headache got worse. I saw the vague stares around me. I quickly stopped him. "Stop. Ryan, didn't I make myself clear the other day? Have you forgotten that I never had any feelings for you? There's no hooking up and no wronging you." Ryan's eyes widened slightly. He immediately stepped forward. He wanted to take my hand. Christopher took a step forward. His face was a little gloomy. "She doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Can't you see that? Get out of the way." Ryan instantly looked like a dog with its tail between its legs. He was furious. Seeing the tension rising between the two, I quickly stepped forward to separate them. I said to Christopher, "Christopher, I'm sorry about today. You go home first. I'll explain this to you some other time." "Okay." Christopher listened. He looked at me worriedly for a long time. Only then did he hesitantly agree. "Then you must call me if something happens to you." After he said that, he glared at Ryan before leaving. I turned to Ryan. I was very annoyed. I said, "Ryan, what you did really affected me. I just hope that you will not have any contact with me in the future. Why can't you understand what I'm saying?" Ryan didn't respond yet. Suddenly, I felt a heavy pressure on my leg. Liam suddenly ran over. He hugged my leg. He looked up and smiled. "Mom, Liam missed you so much. I really missed your cooking, and I missed the days when you drove me home." I slowly pulled him away from me, ignoring his resistance. I pushed him directly over to Ryan. "I have nothing to do with these responsibilities anymore. You're mistaken. I'm not his mother." Ryan sighed. "Olivia, I really hope you can come back with me. My mom is not feeling well right now, and she wants to see you too." After hearing his words, I completely understood. now that Grandma is in poor health. The Smith family has always been under her complete control. She never let Ryan get involved. Suddenly, she has given up control. No one can adapt immediately. That's why he is so anxious for me to go back. It's also because he is so busy. He urgently needs me, the big nanny, to help him stabilize the situation. Otherwise, nothing will go well. Seeing Ryan's worried face, I said bluntly, "Don't you just want me to go back and continue working for your family? You put it so nicely. It's as if you have feelings for me, at least. I have feelings for you," Ryan tried to explain, but he was at a loss for words. It took a long time before he managed to squeeze out a sentence. "I've been out for too long today. I still have things to take care of at home. I'll give you until tonight to think about it. Olivia, I hope you can give me a chance." After saying that, he took the child and left. His back looked particularly lonely. Early the next morning, I found Ryan waiting downstairs. Liam was no longer as arrogant as before. He just silently cried for a long time. The morning dew wet their father and son's clothes. They looked very miserable, both pitiful and lonely. I quietly watched for a long time, trying to recall these past 10 years, whether I had ever felt even the slightest bit of affection for Ryan. I thought about it for a long time, but still, I got nowhere. We have always lived in different worlds. Apart from the children, we could hardly find anything to talk about. He only saw me as capable and obedient, but he didn't really know what kind of person I was. I'm not sure how much of what he said about liking me was true, but when I think about it, I don't really care anymore. In the end, I never gave him that chance. He waited with the kids until almost noon. Then he turned around and left, feeling lost. After Ryan got home, he quickly sent me the divorce papers. I didn't think he would really let go. When I got the divorce certificate, I felt a sudden sense of relief. Along with the divorce papers, there was also a bank card. I confiscated it. I returned it to him just as it was. I only wanted the share that we had agreed on 10 years ago. In the next 6 months, Christopher and I grew closer and closer. In particular, I heard that he had thought for so many years that I had married the Smith family. He was still waiting for me. I felt that he was a bit silly. Fortunately, we finally met during a trip with Christopher. He was by the sea, looking at the waves and the horizon. He confessed his love to me. I was so moved that tears welled up in my eyes. I said yes. Before long, we naturally entered into marriage. The wedding was held on the grass in front of the church. Only a few relatives and friends were invited. When I saw Ryan in the crowd in his wedding suit, I was shocked. He had lost a lot of weight. His face was haggard. He stood far away, staring at me without moving. I thought he was there to cause trouble, but he just looked at me for a long time, and finally, he said something with his mouth. "Happy wedding." I nodded slightly. When I turned around, he had already gone. Only the gift money was left. "What are you looking at?" Christopher asked me softly, taking my hand gently. I shook my head. I moved closer, hugged him. "It's okay. Let's get started." Christopher gave the order. The wedding officially began. Amidst the applause and cheers of family and friends, I had waited 10 years. Finally, I had my moment of happiness.